What's going on, everybody? I'm back again for another episode, and this time I'm trying something brand new. I reached out to my community and I asked if anyone had any questions they'd like me to answer. And in this case, I got an overwhelming response of almost 100 questions. Now, obviously, I can't get through all of them today, but I'm going to try my best to get through as many as I possibly can. So welcome to my first Q&A. Let's get into it. All right, we made it outside. I'm downtown Toronto. Going to head out on a quick photo walk to answer this next set of questions. But I've got my Leica M6 and the GoPro mounted on top. So you guys are going to get a bit of the POV action while I break down these questions. Joanna asks, what makes street photography special to you? For me, street photography is freedom. It's just me and my camera, and I can go at my own pace. I love slowing things down enough to pay attention to the little things, and I just think there's so much magic in those moments. I'm a curious person, and I'm also a storyteller, so to me it makes perfect sense that I like documenting the stories I see on the street. Bryan asked, what are the key elements that you look for when taking a photo? Aside from the fundamentals like lighting, composition, leading lines, or color, I look for stories with people and moments that make me feel something. You know that feeling you get after you hit the shutter and you already know you got that one? That's what excites me, and that's what I'm after. I want to feel something. Grace wants to know if you should ask or not ask before you take a photo, particularly when it may be a child or someone suffering from homelessness. For me, when I first started shooting on the street, I actually made the mistake of shooting someone who was homeless. And I say mistake because I could feel my moral compass shift, and I knew instantly that I didn't really need to take that shot. But when it comes to asking permission for a photo, there's no harm in asking. The worst thing that could happen is someone says no. Just keep in mind what you're trying to capture, because the minute you ask to take a photo, the candid moment is gone. And when it comes to street photography, most times it's the candid moments that end up being special. What are some tactics you use when dealing with any sort of confrontation from the public? Okay, so I've only ever had like 3 or 4 times when I've had any sort of confrontation while shooting on the street. But I'm super chill, and my goal in those scenarios is to always make people feel comfortable. So as long as you're upfront, honest, and don't get too excited, it's usually pretty easy to de-escalate. A lot of times leading with a compliment can break the tension, or just introducing yourself and letting them know who you are, what you do, and maybe why you took their photo. That might work. Just be smart and be safe. Andrew sent in this question. Your thoughts on generalizing versus specializing in a specific genre of photography? I think in the beginning it's great to try all sorts of photography, especially if it's a hobby, but eventually you're naturally going to gravitate towards a certain type of photography that speaks to you. But if your goal is to become a professional photographer, then it definitely pays to focus on a specific genre. People usually hire people who are quote-unquote experts in their field instead of hiring the jack of all trades or the master of none. This one's from Instagram. Entry-level photography tips and equipment. All right, first tip is to use what you got. If you don't have the resources to buy a camera, it's all good, just use your phone. But if you do have a camera, you've got to learn the basics of aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. There's a lot of value in learning how to shoot manually first. If you want to try film and you're overwhelmed with all the technical stuff, just grab a cheap point and shoot and have some fun. Okay, so Neil asked, what does retouching a photo look like for you? When it comes to my personal work, I don't really edit that much. I like when my photos look as close to reality as possible. I may adjust things like exposure, highlights, contrast, and shadows, but that's about it. If it's commercial work though, I'm gonna have to edit no matter what. And in that case, I would use a combination of Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. Okay, another question. I'm a beginner with film photography and want to get into the industry. What are your tips and tricks into getting into the film photography industry? I'm not sure about the film photography industry, but when it comes to getting involved with the film photography community, there are a ton of options. You can join a community darkroom, attend photo walks and photo exhibits at your local galleries. You can attend artist talks or spend time online connecting through social media. Okay, so Victor asked, when did you feel it was a good time for you to host your first community photo walk? To be honest, after 2 years of the pandemic lockdowns, I just wanted to connect with people again. I didn't really know what I was doing, but everyone seemed to have a great time, so I've been hosting photo walks ever since. All right, the last question of this section is, do you have any other community projects on the horizon aside from photo walks? Yeah, 100%. I'm planning to host a variety of photo-based events this year, and if you're interested in learning more or attending, you can just join my community text chat and get all the updates right from me. The number is 647-424-2278. All right, I'm going to try and switch things up real quick. I want to try and answer 10 questions in 1 minute. If you could only choose one thing to shoot for the rest of your life, which one would it be? Film or digital? Definitely film. All-time favorite focal length if you had to choose one, 35 millimeter. What is your favorite camera of choice? Definitely the M6 and the Q2. Favorite photographer of all time? Gordon Parks. Who are your photography inspirations? Andre Wagner, Dawood Bey, Carrie Mae Weems, Melissa O'Shaughnessy, Alex Webb, Vivian Meyer, Jamal Shabazz, the list goes on and on. Biggest regret in life with photography? I wouldn't really call it a regret. I think I wish I just started taking photos earlier. Would you say you're more confident as a YouTuber now compared to when you first started? 1000%. I was like a robot when I first started this channel. Can you tell us about your experience putting together your first photography exhibit? I could definitely tell you, but it's a lot easier if I just show you. I'm going to add the link just above me, and you can check out my first solo exhibition. Do you rely on others for feedback, or do you decide for yourself what you want to put out? I decide for myself, but I'm always open to feedback, and especially if it's coming from another artist that I respect. Do you think film photography will continue to stand the test of time and new technology? Yeah, I definitely think so. Film will never die. All right, cool. Now I want to jump into a few personal questions. First one being, I would love to know more about your creative work pre-photography. So for those of you that don't know, I've only picked up a camera maybe like 3 or 4 years ago at this point. The last 25 years, I've actually been a creative director, graphic designer. I've done fashion, space design, furniture design. I've done creative direction for musicians and artists. I've actually toured the world with a few of them. I've taught at a college and university level, and I've been a community mentor for 15 plus years out of my career. Long story short, I've worn a ton of different hats, and this all happened before I ever picked up a camera. Question number 2, how do you overcome self-doubt and have the confidence to share your photography? You know what, that's a great question, and I've got a funny story about that because when I first picked up my camera, I was so scared to let anyone know that I was shooting that I actually created a burner account on Instagram, and I would post images under another alias and no one knew it was me, and I felt safe doing that. And it literally took me almost a year to get comfortable enough and confident enough to be willing to share my work on my own page. I think it just took me to get to that point where I didn't care about what people thought anymore. So that was like a defining thing for me to just move forward without caring so much. Number 3, favorite picture of all time. Okay, so I'm still early into my photography career, so I don't even know if I've captured my favorite photo of all time. But up until now, I definitely have one photo that sticks out. Back in 2021, I was shooting in New York City, and an image I captured actually ended up in my first photo book. It's a black and white image of a father and son just chilling on the street with their masks on. And there's a lot of different layers to that photo, and it keeps me coming back more and more. Okay, so question number 4 is, what's the best thing about being an artist or a photographer? And for me, that's simple. It's the ability to express myself. Photography has allowed me to find a voice, and through that voice, I'm able to connect with other people, share different stories. And at the end of the day, it's something that I think just provides me with an undeniable feeling that I wouldn't get unless I was an artist. All right, question number 5, how do you ensure that you're always growing and learning? Honestly, I think you just have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. You know, the minute you recognize that you're just safe and in a space where you kind of know what you're doing, that's almost the most dangerous space to be in, right? You always want to be challenging yourself, but there's also a lot of value in learning from your failures. And I think I've done both over and over again in my lifetime. Okay, question number 6, how do you prevent burnout? This is a great question for a lot of creatives because we're always kind of burning the candle at both ends. We might have a 9-to-5 or a couple part-time jobs, and then we're doing our art on the side. Or if you're a full-time artist, that's a grind in and of itself. For me, I can honestly say that the younger version of myself didn't understand what burnout was. actually pushed myself beyond my own limits, and I definitely got sick in the past. But as I've gotten older, I definitely take the cues from my body. And if I'm feeling something, I definitely just chill. I'll take a break. I love getting a vacation or a trip in there, because what that does for me is it's a huge reset. I think those things really help me when it comes to preventing burnout. Number 7, how do I go about reaching out to find a mentor, and how should I ask? Honestly, I think everyone should have a mentor. I wish I had one growing up, but that wasn't the case. But I think there's a few things you should consider if you're going to try and get a mentor. One being, what do you want out of that mentorship? And 2, what are you giving to that mentor? Because it should be a two-way street, right? If you're looking for knowledge, experience, relationship, and time, you're going to be taking all of that away from your potential mentor. So what does that mentor get back from you? And it's going to be different depending on what your story is and what you bring to the table. But I think it's something important to think about. And then in terms of how do you reach out, you could do a simple cold call, an email, you can use DMs. I know a lot of important people have answered people's DMs before, and it's turned into something much bigger than ever expected. And at the end of the day, the worst thing that could happen is someone either doesn't respond, or if they do, they say no. All right, question number 8, where do you look for inspiration? In all honesty, inspiration for me is everywhere. You just have to be open enough to acknowledge it and willing to accept it. Now, what that means is inspiration is literally everywhere we go. It's down the street, it's in a movie, it's during a song that we listen to, it's popping out of a conversation we're having with friends. But if you're not paying attention, that inspiration could go right by you. And number 9, what's a dream project for you? A dream project for me would be creating a body of work that could literally change the world. And I know that kind of sounds crazy, but we are talking about dream projects. So if I had that opportunity, I would do it. If I couldn't change the world with a project, I would at least want to change a narrative and create dialogue from the work that I would present. All right, and the last question for the personal side of things, question number 10, how does your work contribute to your sense of fulfillment? Okay, so without getting too philosophical, I just know that I need to create to feel that I'm alive. It's something inside of me, and I was probably born with it. I can't really explain why or how or even what, but there's something inside of me that just makes me want to create. And I think if I ever stopped doing that, I wouldn't really feel alive. I probably would feel like I don't have purpose, and I think it's important to tune into that. All right, so that wraps up my first ever Q&A. I hope you guys learned a few things about myself and my journey, but also I hope you got some takeaways that could help in your journey as well. Now, I said earlier in this episode that I had a ton of questions, and it's true, I probably only got through about 30% of them in this video. So if there's value from this video, if you feel like you got what you needed from this video, that's incredible. But if you want to learn more, or if you want me to try and tackle some of those other questions, just let me know in the comments section below. Either way, I appreciate everyone who submitted those questions, and in all honesty, I feel like we're just going to keep growing together.